Good to see everybody. Just finished up day 2 of the off-season program with the players. Had some really good meetings there on Zoom. Looking forward to a couple more meetings this week with the guys. And then we're in the middle of our draft process. I think Andrew Berry and his staff have done an outstanding job to date. Some really good discussions, a really collaborative group. And I think the coaches have contributed to that. So really pleased with where we are with some more work to do. And then excited for the draft for our city. I think we get to showcase our city across a global audience. So I think it'll be a great time for Cleveland. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you very much, Coach. The first one will come from Tom Withers.
Thanks, Rob. Good to have you back in the MC chair. Hey, Coach Stefanski, how are you, sir? Hey, just curious on your thoughts. I know things haven't really changed much in terms of things being still virtual. Is it disappointing? Just kind of where are you at in terms of how this is beginning this year?
No, I'm excited, Tom. I think we've had a couple, we had started meetings yesterday, really good one today. Looking forward to covering a lot of ground with you guys. So I think it's an exciting time for us as we start the off-season program. And I think the guys are engaged and you know, we're in phase 1, so it's just day 2 of phase 1. But I think the guys are doing a nice job.
Hey, in terms of any conversations you've had with JC that you can share with us, I know there's going to be a push for players to potentially skip even the mandatory practices coming up later in the year. What are your thoughts on that? Would that be problematic if you didn't have these guys in person until you get to July?
I've had good discussions with JC, Tom. He's very transparent. I'm very transparent. This program is voluntary. Again, we're in day 2 of phase 1. It's a virtual program that I think the guys are doing a nice job with. So we'll deal with anything else that comes down the road. But yeah, I think I'm just going to make sure that the communication continues between JC and really any of the players and myself.
Thanks, Coach.
Thanks, Tom. Nate Ulrich is next. Nate Ulrich is next.
Hey, Kevin, do you have any guys who are working out there?
So our building, you know, player health and safety is very important, as you know, Nate, to our organization. So we're always ready for guys and making sure that this building is ready. And I think credit to our entire staff in doing that. We will have guys that are rehabbing. We will have other guys coming in, but that's no different than any year.
And, you know, JC was on a NFLPA conference call yesterday. And on that call, DeMaurice Smith said that, you know, the science tells the union that it would be wise not to have mandatory minicamp. Do you know right now, do the Browns plan on having mandatory minicamp?
Really, Nate, I know that we're in day 2 of the off-season program. As you can imagine, I respect our players. I respect the voluntary portion of this. You also know I'm a coach, and we have really, I think, outstanding coaches here that can't wait to get on the grass with our players. So we'll figure it out as it goes, but we're just going to make sure that we're in the here and now as we go.
Thank you, Nate. We'll go to Mary Kay Cabot.
Hey, Coach, just wondering, you know, this is a big year, obviously, for Baker Mayfield, being in the same system for
We'll go to Mary Kay
the second
Cabot.
straight year. So given that you are not going to be able to probably have him on the grass, maybe potentially until the end of July, the beginning of August, if there's no mandatory minicamp, how do you anticipate trying to get him to the next level in his development?
Yeah, Mary Kay, all of our players are meeting with their position coaches this week, really tomorrow and Thursday, and they're going to go over their player improvement plan. And Baker's no different than the rest of the guys. They'll have a list of things that they need to work on. And as coaches, we're giving them the resources and the tools and the things that they need to do to improve those. And some are watching more tape, some are drills, all of the above. I think Baker, as we've talked about, is somebody that constantly wants to get better. And I think Alex Van Pelt has a really, really strong plan in how we're going to attack that with Baker in particular. But I can also tell you, I got however many 70 plus improvement plans on my desk for each player. We just think it's important that everybody understands that we have to improve, and then it's our job to give them avenues to improve.
And last year he was able to, before the union kind of advised against it, was able to kind of get some of the guys together in Austin for a sort of Camp Mayfield kind of a thing. They told us, the union did, that they don't want those things happening again this year. So what's your sort of position on that, you know, he probably or might not be able to get together with Odell or Austin or any of those guys?
Yeah, I think I can only focus on the voluntary offseason program that the NFL puts forth, Mary Kay. So it's hard for me to think about anything that the guys may do outside of that. That's not really my jurisdiction, if you will.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Mary Kay. Scott Petrick, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin. Obviously, you did the whole offseason program virtually last year. So what changes do you have in store for that part of it for year two?
Yeah, Scott, we want to make sure that we're reaching our guys where they are, and we need to adapt what we're doing from a Zoom standpoint. So we've had many meetings on the best way to teach. And the truth is we have to teach and reteach our systems right now on Zoom. And that's part of what we're doing. So it's a challenge, if you will, but it's a challenge that I think everybody has. I don't know if we're getting good at it, but it's something that over the past calendar year, we've definitely gotten a lot of reps on Zoom. So hopefully we're getting better.
And if you don't have any attendance or a lot of attendance for the voluntary stuff, what do you think you missed the most by not having guys out in the field in April and May?
Yeah, I think, again, I'm not going to go too far ahead. I'm just going to kind of focus on where we are right now. And I think our players understand that based on our meetings we've had the last couple of days, and the focus is going to be on getting better. But I don't want to get too far ahead of myself.
Thank you, Scott. Daryl Ryder, you're up.
Hey, Coach. One question about this offseason program. There seems to be a larger scale, more so than just a 2021 thing here in play. You showed last year that it is possible to have success with having the limitations that you had that were out of your control. My question to you as a coach is, can there be a little bit of a happy medium where players, whether it's voluntary or mandated, can do a little less in a team setting and more virtually and still, receive, I guess, the same preparation? I guess what I'm getting at is, JC and the players, they're looking at the data, time missed injuries were down, concussions were down last year. So I'm just wondering from your perspective as a coach, if maybe there's some room for some flexibility in the bigger picture of the offseason programs going forward.
Yeah, Daryl, I understand the question, and I saw the press conference and I've heard that position. I can really operate on what the parameters of our off-season program look like currently, and it's hard for me to go past that. Like I said before, I would love to see our guys on the grass. There's no coach that wouldn't love to coach their guys. That's very, very obvious. But I'm going to respect the process and respect the position and let those things play out.
And it's been a while since we talked to you. Your defense, in some ways, has kind of been rebuilt. You've got a lot of new faces brought in. Obviously, John Johnson, Troy and Clowney are the big headliners. Just could you touch on the changes that Andrew Berry was able to make on that side of the ball to make you guys a better football team?
Yeah, you hit it right there, Daryl. We're trying to make ourselves a better football team. And I think Andrew saw some opportunities to add players to this roster. We feel like we've gotten better on the defensive side of the ball, and we're creating competition. We're going to have a draft, and we're going to create even more competition by hopefully bringing in good players. So excited for bringing in guys at all three levels of the defense and what that can mean to us moving forward.
Thanks, Daryl. Tony Grossi, you're next.
Coach Ski, that's Tech McKinley's name for you.
Thanks, Daryl. Tony Grossi, you're next.
I think it'll last, huh?
I answer to most things, Tony.
And not to belabor this point, but JC Tretter's data was pretty compelling. You guys are data-driven. I'm sure your analytics department has done its own study of the effects of last year. Do your conclusions concur with the NFLPA's that it was better for players? And I got a follow-up, but I'll wait for your answer.
Yeah, I would tell you, Tony, player health and safety is very important to me. It's very important to this organization. We have a sports science group that uses all the information we can to make sure that we're having safe practices, having safe workouts. So obviously that's very important to me. And that's something that we'll always take into account as we start to plan training camps, start to plan our practices during the regular season, those type of things. We'll absolutely use data to our advantage.
And the Browns have prided themselves in being outside the box, at least in the last year, not doing things just for the sake that they've been done this way for so long. Could you ever envision embracing Tretter's point and endorsing it league-wide as a coach?
Hard for me to speculate, Tony. I'll just tell you, I respect his position, but I also understand that there's rules here, and I'm just going to adhere to them as best I can.
Thank you, Tony. We'll go to Jake Trotter.
Yeah, hey, Kevin. How would you compare Baker's understanding of everything, the offense, the scheme, right now to last year at this time? And then, not only that, your understanding of Baker's game as well, and in the upside that you guys now have together, especially with a year under your belt and the way that you guys, really grew as the season went on last year.
Yeah, Jake, I hope it's significantly better. I hope as he starts to listen to the installs with AVP, you're hearing it for not the second time. I mean, he's heard these plays over and over and again, and we've streamlined concepts and we've tried to adjust what we do based on his strengths, our players' strengths. So I would hope he's much more comfortable from that perspective. And that's what time allows you to do.
And do you have any update on just how Odell is looking, coming along? When you feel like he's going to be ready to go for you guys?
Yeah, he's progressing very well. He's trending in the right direction, really. Odell and Grant Delpit and Greedy, I think they're all on track. I don't know the exact date that is for all those guys, but really like how they're progressing. In particular, Greedy continues to get good news, and I'm just so happy for the kid. He just battled his butt off in the rehab room for months and had a great attitude throughout. And I just really, really happy for him as he keeps getting better and better. And he's got ways to go, but he's trending in the right direction.
Thank you, Jake. Aditi Kinkabwala has our next question.
Hi. This feels a little bit like a double-edged sword in the sense that you didn't get a real off-season with your players. You were limited so much during the season because of COVID protocol, and yet you had this amazing, incredible, fabulous amount of success. So when you look at last year, what could have been better or what was missing that actually having your players present this spring, do you think could make a significant difference?
Well, first thing I'd tell you is we lost our last game, like 31 other teams, or at least the teams in the playoffs. So we look back at last year and try and put that in perspective. And I need to understand that we have to get way better. So as it pertains to last year and how we did last year, I don't think it's just apples to apples. I think this is going to be a different offseason. We have different players. We have some players in, some players out. So it's really the 2021 season is definitely going to stand on its own merit.
Okay, so then following with that, just sort of to that point, last year you did have to do an initial install with everybody. And so during the season, we talked a few times about a little more creativity, maybe 2 running backs on the field at the same time. And your team had to learn how you called plays, basically. Now you have a lot of those guys back. If you are virtual, can you still sort of try to be more creative, or are those things that only happen on a field?
I think we'll deal with the parameters and whatever they are, Didi, if it's virtual on the field, like you mentioned. I think it's our job to get creative offensively, defensively, special teams. And it is something that we recognize as we get going, that you don't pick up where you left off. We really need to focus on the work, focus on reinforcing the foundation that we built last year.
Thanks, Aditi. Fred Greetham, go ahead.
Hi, Coach. I don't think we talked to you since you added Clowney. Do you think he's versatile enough that he can play inside as well as outside? And can you talk about his run defense? He's really played pretty well against the run in recent years.
Yeah, Fred, I do think he's versatile enough to play inside and outside. He's shown that over the course of his career. He's a disruptive football player in the run and the pass game. He's somebody that over the many years, and certainly last few, has seen a lot of attention. Teams have slid to him. They've put a tight end in there to chip, or the running back. So we feel like he'll have opportunities here playing opposite Miles that should help him in the pass game. But he's a disruptive player, so excited to add him to the front.
Thank you, Fred. Jeff Shadell.
Hey, Kevin, thanks. I know, of course, you weren't here 2 years ago, but in 2019, after 2018, everybody was talking about the Browns were going to be one of the best teams in the league. And now we're hearing the same thing after your success last year. 2019 didn't go well. How do you make sure that this is not going to be a repeat of that?
It's something I talked to the players about, Jeff, and some of those aspirations that you've heard them talk about. It's very, very easy to talk about that. It's very easy for me to say that we want to do this and we're going to be this, but we're going to focus on the work, and that's what we did last year, and I promise you that's what we'll do this year. We're not going to focus on anything out there that people are talking about, because ultimately we're going to be about the work.
Thank you, Jeff. Zach Jackson, you're up.
Kevin, I know you defer to Andrew on a lot of the draft stuff, but is there an example of how this year is different or I guess better because you guys have been through this a year in terms of getting everything ready?
So Andrew's talking Friday at 11:30 a.m., I'm told. So, but no, Zach, I think I was really pleased with the communication that we had even last year, as we're in different states and in different locations, and the communication we're able to have. So we want that collaborative spirit to constantly be part of what we do. And I've already seen it in our preparations to this point, and it'll be important for us as we go forward. And I just think that's what Andrew and his staff, but Andrew in particular, does a really nice job of listening to everybody, gathering as much information, and then ultimately he knows that he makes the decision. But I do think he does a great job of procuring all of that information.
Thank you, Zach. Dan Lobby, go ahead.
Hey, Kevin, you mentioned creating competition when you bring in draft picks, but also from a coaching standpoint, how does it help that when you bring these guys in, Andrew has kind of addressed a lot of the holes and filled a lot of the positions. So how does it help that maybe there's not the pressure on these guys to come in and have to contribute right away?
I think it varies, Dan, based on the player and the position. Last year, Jed, we installed him at left tackle starting right away, and I know he was the 10th overall pick. But it depends on the player, and we need to do a good job as coaches of developing these players. They're all a work in progress. So from week 1 to week 17, or game 17, I should say, we want those guys to get better. And we need to recognize that they're going to get better through X, Y, and Z that we do with them. So player development's a big part of what we do, and also understanding that those players should, in theory, be getting better as the season goes on.
Thanks, Dan. Nate Ulrich, you're up.
Hey, Kevin, can you explain the decision to release Sheldon Richardson last week? And part 2 of that is, we see teams, sometimes release a guy with a high number, and then they, get back to having a reunion. Is that something that is a possibility in this situation?
Well, I would tell you, I think I mentioned to you the last time we spoke, as a coach, I want to keep everybody. And there's some salary cap constraints that I think everybody understands, and they're hard decisions. And Sheldon in particular played really productive football for us, and he played through injuries, and he took great pride in getting to the playoffs for the first time in his career. So he was a big part of that. I hope there's a scenario, Nate, like you mentioned, but you know, those are the hard decisions that are made. But I really want to point out that Sheldon was such a big part of what we did last year.
Thank you, Nate. We'll go back to Tom Withers. We need to make this our last question for today.
Thanks, Rob. I'm getting worse on Zoom as we go here, Kev. I don't know about you. Nate kind of stole my thunder there. As far as Sheldon's concerned, what impact does his loss then have potentially on your draft plans? There's a lot of speculation about whether or not you guys will look at the defensive side like you have this whole offseason. What does his release mean then to your defensive line?
Yeah, I think for all those positions, Tom, as you look at the draft board, you want to add good players. And I know it's easy to say it's definitely going to be here, definitely going to be there. I think we're looking to add good players to this roster. I know we have multiple picks. I don't know the exact number off the top of my head, but we have many picks that we're looking to bring in competition at all levels, offense, defense, special teams, because I think that's what makes you better. So every one of those decisions as a roster plays into that. But I know that we feel like we can add good players to the roster throughout. And I would encourage you to ask Andrew about that on Friday.
Will do. And if I could follow, in terms of the draft, will you do it the same way you did last year? Will you guys still be spread out, or will you be able to get together to do it?
So we're going to be in the building here, but we're going to each be in our own office. So it'll be virtual in that regard.